I'm the Camacol Talk. This program is brought to you by the City of Doral, Baptist Health South Florida, City Place Doral, and Equitable Advisors. On today's show is Dr. Jose F. Lach. He is the Medical Director for Baptist Health Emergency Care Services. And today, we're going to be talking what's top of mind with everyone, the whole conversation regarding vaccines, in particular COVID, and we're also going to touch on the vaccine for influenza. So let's sit back and watch this conversation. Right, let me bring on to Camacol Talk, Dr. Jose F. Lach from Baptist Health South Florida. How are you today, my friend?
I'm doing great, Pete. Thanks for having me on today.
Thank you so much for taking the time. As we said off air, you're extremely busy. There's a lot happening in the world of medicine and health. And today, what we hope to do here is answer some frequently asked questions about vaccines, which is top of mind anywhere and everywhere you go. It seems to be the topic of conversation, not only in the medical field, but in business and even social gatherings. There's always going to be a mention about vaccines. So today, our hope is that we can go through some of these questions, answer them from your end, and kind of take it from there. So let me go with number one. Should I get the influenza vaccine since I'm getting the COVID vaccine?
Yeah, you definitely should. The reason why I'm bringing this up is the question you bring up, Pete, is the reason we bring this up because right now we're going to be going soon into flu season, which is typically between October and March. So what happens is that, that's actually, believe it or not, that's actually besides COVID in the last year, influenza is up there as well. It's something we need to consider all the time as well. So you definitely should get the influenza vaccine and the COVID vaccine as well. In fact, when you go to your primary care doctor's office, you could even get both at the same time.
Now, the influenza has, and this is a question from my end here, an observation. We haven't heard much talk about it, obviously because of the whole COVID thing. It has drowned out, and unfortunately, talk about any other type of medical challenge that one may have. And when it comes to vaccines, the influenza vaccine has kind of taken gone into the back burner a little bit off the radar screen. I guess it's because the whole COVID thing has been such an impact in the world. Have you seen, because what I had heard before is that before COVID, the influenza vaccine, the flu vaccine, was never at 100%. Not everyone took it. Did you, in your experience in the last year and a half, did you see a drop off even further than what typically we see with the flu shot?
It's a great question, Pete. So yeah, basically there has been a drop off in reference to the influenza vaccines in the country. The reason why we're getting this big drop off in itself is because of the measures that as a community we're all taking, where we have the hand hygiene, wash your hands for 20 seconds, the social distancing, wearing masks. That there shows to you and proves to you that that viruses are transmissible by these measures, by contact, by discussion, basically being in the same room with somebody else, and aerosolization of the virus to another patient. So it actually shows that what we've done in the community, especially in Dade County, is helping basically bring down the influenza numbers. Me as an emergency room physician, I've definitely seen that the numbers of influenza have gone down tremendously from years past. And a good point you bring up, Peter, is basically about the vaccine itself. If we get the vaccine, how good is the vaccine? And the influenza vaccine is 90% effective. Great point. I completely agree with you. It's actually about 60% effective, the influenza vaccine, as well as the COVID vaccine. So there is a protection about 6% of the time. It's going to protect you from getting really sick or sick in itself. But there are the measures that we've all been taking as a community in South Florida that protect us and thus preventing the transmission of these viruses among us.
Absolutely. And I think you just mentioned before this question that you can actually take both influenza and COVID vaccine at the same time?
Yes, good point. Yes. And the one thing you want to make sure is that if you have certain conditions, like if you have HIV, if you have a no spleen, basically, or patients who are immunocompromised in itself. You could get both if you're immunocompromised, but if you have no spleen in your body, because let's say you have like a car accident, you have to take your spleen out or whatever it may be. If you have no spleen and you have advanced HIV, not just HIV, but advanced HIV or untreated HIV, those are the kind of patients that don't want to get the influenza vaccine and the COVID vaccine together. But overall, pregnant, children, or basically, children or teenagers greater than 12 years old, the elderly, definitely you want to get the COVID vaccine and the influenza vaccine at the same time. That's per CDC recommendations.
Um, is there any better time to get the influenza vaccine? Is it something that I should be thinking about getting soon?
Great point. Yeah, you definitely want to get the influenza vaccine, especially now during the time of the flu season in itself. And the question is, why now? Why do we get the flu vaccine during the winter time? The reason why is because viruses are transmissible more is basically in the winter, because in the heat, the summer itself destroys basically the capsule of the virus. So in the summer, we don't see too much influenza. But in the winter, we do see it's less hotter in Miami or in Dade County. So we do see a lot more transmission of the virus. So we definitely want a time to get this vaccine when the viruses increase in itself, which is in the wintertime. And believe it or not, the month that is more transmissible for the virus influenza is actually in February. So you want to make sure you time it at least a month or two or even 3 months before January, February, especially also before you meet with your family and the holidays and all that, where you're going to be among others. So you want to time yourself at least. Now's the time to get it. Maybe September or October is definitely the time to get the influenza vaccine.
Dr. Lach, I really like what you just said right now when the weather is less hotter because
Yes.
it's always hot and warm in Miami. And our four seasons, I always chuckle. I saw this photo for a while back where they show four different photos, but they're all the same. The start of winter, the start of spring, the start of summer, and the fall. So it's less hotter, but it's going to be hotter here. Getting back to the COVID vaccine, not getting this vaccine, uh, what does it do in terms of the percentage or danger of me getting COVID if I don't get the COVID vaccine?
That's a great question. Basically, I'm not sure if you guys know, but an article came out over the weekend in the Washington Post where the COVID vaccine, I'm sorry, if you don't get the COVID vaccine, you're at 11% chance of getting sick and very sick. So it actually increases almost by 10% of you getting really, really sick from not getting the COVID vaccine. So I would highly recommend the COVID vaccine because it definitely protects you from getting sick. And I would be quite honest, I am seeing this with my own eyes. I am telling you with my own eyes. I am an ER physician in Dade County. I'm treating lots of patients on a regular basis, where we basically get 9% of the patients who are admitted to the hospital are non-vaccinated. And it shows literally, science is teaching us right then and there that this vaccine does help. 90% of the patients who are admitted are basically our non-vaccinated patients, which is impressive. This is seen beforehand, and history is being made, and it's at the present time, protecting due to this vaccine.
How many of the patients that are going through ER and being admitted because of COVID, how many of them have had the vaccine? What you've seen?
Great question. So basically the question is, I just want to understand your question, Pete. So basically is those who have been admitted, have they been vaccinated out of the COVID in itself?
Well, the ones that have been vaccinated. Okay.
Those are vaccinated.
How many of the COVID patients you've seen have been vaccinated already?
And so the ones that have been good. So I've seen patients in itself, but the numbers are basically about 5 to 10%, not much. And the question is actually who gets admitted, who gets really sick. Those who get vaccinated don't get sick that often. It's really not that much. I would say maybe about 5% of the patients who are vaccinated end up being admitted to hospital, and if you need to be admitted, because you're really sick in itself. Because there's a lot of measures that Baptist Health does to prevent you from getting admitted. We give you certain medications before you get sicker. We have a home monitoring system that Baptist Health does, where we send patients home on home monitors, and we monitor them remotely with our center out in the South Miami area, and we monitor these patients. So you go home in your own comfort, your own bed. There's a monitor on your finger that's on you 24/7, and we're monitoring you. So we definitely take the measures to protect you and to make sure that you're being treated the right way. But to be quite honest, not getting the vaccine is not the way to go.
Now, if you're being monitored at home and you get worse, How do you take care of that?
Great question. So basically, what happened is that our nurses are who are monitoring you 24/7.
Right.
They will call you to your cell phone because the first thing that we do before we send you home is that they'll make sure that the monitor on your finger it's attached to your phone, and make sure that we also have access to your phone. Meaning, if we need to get hold of you, we could contact you, call you, and we'll basically notify you. Or we can actually even notify like a family member as well. Hey, your dad is not getting better. We need to make sure he goes to the hospital. So we will assist you by calling 911, or basically we'll make sure that you yourself call 911 or kind of get you to the hospital as soon as possible.
I think we've pretty much answered the following question, but again, it's one that's front and center, and so many folks are asking, if I get the vaccine, can I still get COVID?
Great question. Yes, you can still get COVID. The chances are very minimal, or you might even get COVID, but I might not even notice it. That's how good the protection is. So the chances of you getting COVID are there, but not to the extent of you even feeling it. As an emergency room physician, I've been vaccinated. I was one of the first ones in line to when the vaccine came out because I studied the way the vaccine works in a very safe process, a way it builds protection to you. And just so you know a little bit of the background is about this virus of the vaccine itself, is the vaccine does not interfere with your DNA, the way your makeup in itself as a human. So it's a very safe vaccine has been basically been studied for many years before this vaccine actually came out to the market. But nonetheless, it does protect you and it prevents you from getting admitted to the hospital. So definitely protects you in itself from getting COVID. Or you might even get COVID, but you might not even notice it.
Interesting. So let's say I've done everything. I've taken all the steps, done all of the precautions. I'm washing my hands. I'm wearing the mask. I'm doing the social distancing, and doing everything that everyone is saying I need to be doing so that I hopefully won't get it. I mean, even though I've done all of this stuff, can I not get COVID? Can I avoid getting COVID?
That's a great, yeah. You could so basically, if you take the measures, you could avoid getting COVID. The question is, or like the situation would be, is how to prevent from myself from getting COVID. Is like the measures you're saying is basically hand washing, wearing your face mask, social distancing. So you could still get COVID, but not to the same extent. I'm not sure if I answered your question, Pete. Did I answer your question appropriately, or
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm just thinking of
sure?
these have been the marching orders since last year. Wear the mask, social distancing, wash your hands. We're doing all those things, and yet people are still getting COVID, and
Right.
and and I'm just thinking this is the minds of so many people. Man, I'm doing everything, but gee, I ended up getting sick. I ended up getting COVID, and I'm vaccinated. If I followed all this and I'm vaccinated, how can I still get COVID?
Yeah, you do a great point. The reason why is because believe it or not, COVID has got different variants, they're almost like cousins of each other. So
Yeah.
back in last year, it was the alpha and the gamma, certain like brothers, and then
Right.
now came the cousin, which is the delta, which is another variant. So nonetheless, these vaccines do help you. They protect you from getting sicker. And not only that, but through time, we will build immunity, and also we will build memory cells in our body, little memory cells that if the COVID vaccine comes into my body, I'm going to build the memory cells. Okay, you know what? COVID is in my body. I'm going to protect myself, and it'll protect me, which is almost one of the most amazing things about the human being is that we have antibodies and we build these protectors within us to protect from viruses and bacteria. Very impressive the way we basically function in itself, but it'll protect us, which is the most important thing.
You are a physician. You're a doctor. You are in the trenches, and you know everything going on. Uh, I have an opinion. I'm not a medical doctor at all, or claim to be. Uh, I have my own personal opinion. I think everybody sooner or later will get COVID. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I completely agree. I think sooner or later, everybody's going to get COVID in itself. Even if you're vaccinated, non-vaccinated. And the point is, great point you bring up because it's something that for me, to be quite, I'm very passionate about because I know everybody's going to get COVID at one point or another. It's a question is how you're going to react to getting COVID because there's friends of mine that their parents have gotten sick and they're doing well. There's been other parents of mine, friends of mine, or just friends, or even colleagues of mine that have gotten COVID and then they've expired, they've died. I mean, this is honestly the number one killer right now in the United States. So I would definitely recommend to get the vaccine. It's definitely going to protect you. We're all going to get COVID at one point or another in time, but you got to make the measures, take the measures to protect yourself and build those antibodies in your body to protect you, which is the most important thing.
I think a lot of it is also common sense.
Yeah.
In terms of if you look back, it's if it's in Miami, it is cold. Miami and cold being in the 50s, let's say, right? And we're not used to that. And we go out there without a sweater or a jacket, or we just took a shower and we go out. The chances of you getting cold or getting sick or getting flu are pretty high. Okay,
Yeah.
so I think that this goes with anything else. It's just common sense,
Yeah.
common sense, and doing everything you can possibly. Sooner or later is something that I think I've seen it. I believe everybody's going to get. It's just to what degree. To what level are they? Because we're seeing, last year it was the older generation. Now the kids are in the hospitals with oxygen, and many of them do not have pre-existing conditions, as
Yeah.
so many folks. So this is the great mystery, and all we can do is just try to have common sense in all this. Do what is suggested, and I mean, live your life. Don't live in fear that, oh my God, I may catch it tomorrow, or I may get it again. So it's just following your instructions and making sure that we're doing everything to prevent it or minimize it.
I completely agree with you, Peter. And think about it this way, Pete. You made a comment about that now children are getting sick. And one of my colleagues who basically works with Nicholas Children's Hospital told me that 90% of we take care of kids, but we transfer them to Nicholas Children's to get admitted and cared for and whatnot when they come to our emergency room. So when they come into our yard, the ones who are being admitted of the children are the non-vaccinated ones. 95% of the kids that are being admitted to the hospital are the non-vaccinated ones in itself. And it could be maybe because we're catching up with the vaccine for these children, but science is going to prove that the vaccine is definitely the protector to these young children and to these teenagers. And I'm not sure if you know, but 50% of the cases now in total, so let's say you have 10 cases, 5 of them are children or basically teenagers and above. What happens is that they're going back to school, they're not vaccinated because now is when they're getting vaccinated because now is when basically the CDC recommended the vaccination for teenage children. So what happened is that 50% of the cases nowadays are actually teenagers in itself, or teenagers or the 20-year-old kids who really didn't believe in the vaccine, and they're basically relying on social media, they're relying on different types of agendas. So, and they're only using the right resource to knowledge or to learn and the knowledge of the vaccine itself. So what happened is that they're all being admitted to the hospital, and our Connected Children's Hospital is actually being pretty busy in itself and jam-packed in itself. Our Baptist, luckily, we basically kind of geared a little bit more to the adult care because the children are being transferred to look at the children, and we are itself seeing the trend of the COVID patients drop within our health system by almost 50% in the last 3 weeks. 50% of the patients are being discharged, which is an amazing accomplishment of what Baptist Health and also all the hospitals in the community has done. But Nicholas Children's is trending up, and it's because they were not vaccinated, and hopefully they will.
Well, the good news is, like, it seems like things are kind of flattening out, or maybe we're starting to turn the corner a little bit, and we can put this chapter behind us here,
Good point.
and obviously take a look back and say, what have we learned through all of this? What are the things that worked, what didn't work, and how we can create. I think every time we go through these periods, we're always learning, and that helps us to get ready for the next one, because there probably is going to be a next one. And it may be worse than this one. It may be the same. It may not be as tough, but I think this is something we have to learn to live with for the next couple of years at least, and beyond possibly.
Yeah, I completely
So
agree with you. I think this is actually, as a physician, this is actually one of the curveballs in medicine that we've all came to us. And we take care of patients with heart attacks, take care of patients with pneumonias, with infections in the whole body, like bacterial infections, but a viral infection to this degree, to this aggressiveness, to this fluid end. It's where history. This is where basically history is being made, and I don't give thanks and to Baptist Health, as well as us living in this community, because we have the resources to take care of all our patients. And I think all the hospitals in the health system and Baptist, as well as in the community, have done an amazing job, kind of even working together at one point, supporting each other, help each other out to provide the best care in the community.
One last question, and I don't want to get into a lot of details here, but how about some of this medication that's out there now that are helping people get through it? And I can't even name some of them, but that seem to be working. And should we be focusing a little bit more attention on that and not as intensive as the vaccine and the mask and all that? Should we be taking equal time, okay, to talk about the different medicines that are out there to help us fight through all of this?
Yeah, the things that I tell my patients, and they ask me when they go home, like, look, what could I have done to prevent this, or what can I do now? I'm okay that I could go home and I'm to be admitted. What things can I do rather than we're focusing on the medications from when you're admitted to the hospital? Let's focus on pretty much the middle of the pack, the majority who don't get admitted to the hospital. I tell them to make sure that eat food high in antioxidants, take their multivitamins. That's one thing I always tell them. Stay hydrated. Do the measures that we spoke about, Pete, earlier on. The social distancing, hand washing, and whatnot. Try to avoid locations of being around a lot of people. The one thing I do want to tell everybody is, if you do start having fevers and chills, Baptist Health, and I'm sure all the hospitals in the community as well, have medications that they will give you in the emergency room or in an infusion center to prevent you from getting admitted or getting sicker in itself. So there's a medication called Regeneron, which is basically us giving you the antibody basically to prevent you from being admitted. Because let's say we detect the COVID antigen in this COVID in your body, we will give the antibodies to attack it and destroy it and knock it out. And also the point I bring to everybody is, you start having fevers, chills, you can do the home health test. You could go to one of our urgent care centers. You could go to your local primary care doctor's office, or go to a testing center. And if you do come up with COVID and you're positive and you meet certain criteria, we can give you an infusion in the emergency room or at one of our transfusion centers. I know also Dade County it has a center where they give the Regeneron. It's a muscular injection. Is given in Tropical Park as well, and they provide that as well. That'll prevent you from getting sicker. So there are measures from getting you admitted to the hospital you could do to mitigate to get to this point. So there's definitely avenues to definitely talk to your primary care doctor. You can also talk to Baptist has the urgent cares, the off-campus EDs, the EDs. They also have an online Baptist online urgent care where you could talk to them and they can help you square yourself away. What would be the best treatment when you're feeling it at 3 in the morning? You don't want to go to the emergency room. In other words, I can talk to somebody. What can I do to mitigate from getting admitted to the hospital?
Dr. Lach, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate your time and answering these questions. Again, we need to get the right information. There's just too much out there that's not necessarily correct, but it's experts like you that clear it out and just inform us in a way that is not panic mode, but common sense. And I think that's how we all have to be handling all of this, with a little bit more, even keel, common sense, and not freak out, and do the things that are out there so that we can prevent it or minimize the impact. So on behalf of all the viewers and everyone watching, thank you so much for being with us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thank you to Dr. Lach for giving us an update. Common sense information, but important, regarding COVID, vaccines, and even the influenza vaccine, which so many of us have kind of forgotten a little bit about there. Thanks to you for being with us as you are every time we do one of these programs. It's something we do to, again, highlight everything to do about Camacol Doral, our members, our partners, our board of directors, something that is very important to share with you, because Camacol is such, I think, an amazing organization. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, our YouTube channel, Camacol Talk, and Instagram as well. So thank you very much for being with us today. You have yourself a terrific week. We'll see you soon. Take care.